Picard.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, Jack. All right. You got this stuff?
Yeah, all cleaned and oiled.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's get it on.
Who are these guys?
It's my theme music. Every good hero should have some.
Hot damn, it's time to get down to the jam. It's time to get down, it's time to get down, it's time to get down to the jam. I said it's time to get down to the knowledge, gonna get on down with the know. On the morning coffee show, on morning coffee with Keith, here on Pop Culture Minefield.
Excuse me, can I get a cup of coffee? Black? Can't you see we talking? White?
Good morning.
Hello, everybody.
We actually get to see Keith's face today.
I know, but it's a special day. It's a special day.
Keith,
Yeah.
you have to show everybody what you show us.
Oh, yeah. See?
No, not that. Oh, the shirt.
The shirt. This is not only fun, okay?
Wow. Thanks, man. It's not like my dad isn't watching or anything, you know.
Sorry, it was just like it was the straight line. It was just like
not like my brothers aren't watching or anything, but they're probably laughing with you.
Right at you and with me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Keith. That's Ben, and of course the main man himself, Martin. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Keith here on the Pop Culture Minefield channel on YouTube. And good morning, Gambit. Hopefully, Snorty. Yeah, Snortopoopas Cuba.
Some guy, Ben Reader.
Ben Reader. Ben Reader. No, I've heard that name before.
Morning Snortopoopas.
James Caserta. You know, it is good to be able to do this. And again, I consider myself lucky to be able to do something like this for you guys, the way that I do it. And so, without further ado, let's get into this.
Oh, look who's here.
Oh, it's Lady Anima. Hello, Anima. But let me at least just say this. You know, I think thinking back to my earliest days as a fan, definitely to the beginning of my nerddom, I can remember a time when my brother and I were just consuming everything. And if you grew up in the early 1970s, that's pretty much what you were doing. At least, well, okay, I can only speak for myself. TV was this incredible device that would just open up all these doors, and there were all kinds of things to see and experience. You know, stuff aimed at my age group, whether you're talking the PBS shows of the period. I mean, you know, Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers was beginning. You had the Electric Company, but you also had a a lot of other programming that didn't exactly make it nationwide that was still very formative. Of course, the morning shows for a lot of the television stations that you were watching,
Right.
which led into
which you were at the mercy of whatever was on at the time.
Yes. I mean, I got caught up in watching Romper Room. Loved it. Kept waiting for that. Kept waiting for the lady to mention my name. She never did.
Right.
But I'm not still mad about that. But yes, we are celebrating Star Trek. So let me at least say right here at the very beginning, for those of you who aren't used to watching my annual Star Trek celebration shows, this is a celebration of Star Trek. As I was telling Ben before we started, this is not really going to focus on Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, any of the sequels or prequels or any things that have gone on, especially anything starting 2017 and to now.
Right.
This celebration of Star Trek. And
this is OG Trek.
Yeah. Well, this is just Star Trek. As I've said before, every year, there is a reason why you name things the way that you do. And legally, you cannot name another show Star Trek. Can't do it.
Right.
So you have to make sure to you can have a Star Trek show and use the name Star Trek within that title, but you also have to mark it as different in some sort of way. There's a reason why it's called Star Trek The Next Generation.
But my question is, does this include the movies with the original cast?
Yes.
Or only the show?
I can include the movies.
Okay.
But I mean, the main focus, though, especially of this program, is the fact that we are coming to September 8th. And September 8th was the night, really, that Star Trek premiered on NBC television. This was not established so that you could make a whole day out of it. Okay? The Star Trek Day thing was really CBS's attempt to basically replicate what Disney was doing with Star Wars Day by creating their own special day in May and calling it Star Wars Day, even though the 25th is just a couple days later. You know, but it's a way of celebration of a sort to help provide cover for the fact that everything that they were launching was just not good. It's a way of trying to help all the rest of that stuff be as good. So instead of celebrating Star Trek, we want to celebrate everything because everything's Star Trek, which is really a misdirection because not everything is of the same quality. Mainly because you have a group of people who are currently in charge of Star Trek that didn't think it was that important to study and understand not only Star Trek, but really what science fiction as a genre is. They have no respect for any of it.
Right.
You know, they are well versed in episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but that's like going to a dentist when you need a heart surgeon.
Or going to an auto mechanic when you get chest pain.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and again, as I continue to say, I have no problem with any of the actors or actresses or the them theys or anybody that has ever really worked on a lot of the newer stuff as far as set design, makeup, costumes, visual effects, any of that stuff. Okay? My problem and focus is on the producers and writers of what is attempting to pass for Star Trek since 2017.
Right.
and I have no real like of it at all. I've watched it. And a lot of people, you don't know. You gotta watched it, saw it.
Mhm.
Not good.
Right.
You know, I don't need to take a nail and drive it through my leg in order to totally understand that that's going to hurt. You know, I mean,
Right.
you don't
Well,
have to
and
watch too much
that's what makes the the OG Trek that much that much better, much more classic in the classic term, because OG Trek.
I love how you say OG Trek.
Well, to me, that's the original. That's the original thing, and that's
yeah. But why do you say OG? Why did you just call it Star Trek?
Because there is Trek this, Trek that, and it's like I will always say my friend,
Yeah,
because it's as a recognition of, I don't want there to be any mistake or any question about what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
This is the beginning Trek,
Yes.
and everything else after that, is a form of Trek. But this is the original Trek. This is the original
Yes,
series.
this is the seed. This is the
Yeah,
origin
that-
of everything.
So
Yeah,
that's
this
the
is
reason-
this is the
that's-
foundation.
Well, that's the reason why legally you
Mhm.
can't call Star Trek: The Next Generation Star Trek.
Right.
You cannot
And-
legally call Star Trek Deep Space Nine Star Trek. You can't
Right.
call Voyager Star Trek. You can't
You have
do
to,
any.
yeah.
You have to add the additional title
Mhm.
in there. So
Right.
my thing has always been there's only one Star Trek.
Right.
You know, when I say I'm discussing Star Trek, it's really if I don't say the Next Generation, then that means I'm not discussing the Next Generation.
Right.
You know,
but also bear in mind, Keith,
Yeah.
writer, my job in what I do is to always make sure that my audience knows exactly what I'm talking about.
True.
So
True.
so I will always, and it's like going, and to me also, just calling it Star Trek as opposed to going the original, it's like giving it a good introduction, because this is my first, it's like introducing a wrestler. You don't just call it Star Trek, when you want people to understand, no, this is not just Trek, this is the OG Trek, this is where it all started. And this is one of my first introductions to science fiction TV shows. Even before Lost in Space, even before any of that was Star Trek. Watching it happen on TV, and our first color TV, but, and then, Star Trek was also my first introduction to fandom.
Yeah.
Was because my stepdad, his one of his coworkers just absolutely adored Star Trek. This was before the movies came out. This was before any of that. And he used to give Bob crap because Bob had one of the original. Bob Rolfe was a friend of my dad's who worked out at where he worked with him, and he had one of the a handmade original. He had one of the blue ones.
Science uniforms. Yeah.
Science uniforms. Yeah, sciences and stuff. And yeah, it was handmade. It was, and Bob was a big guy, and but he would make fun of him because he had that stuff, and I was just like, really? What's so it put Star Trek in a different place in my head. And he had some of the old typewritten, hand printed Trek newszines. So and I'm just like going, that was so Star Trek was, even before Doctor Who, was one of my first seminal introductions to to Sci-Fi, and then I think growing up with it, I had the benefit of watching it without adults around, because when I did watch it with adults around, bearing in mind my stepfather was a racist mofo, so Star Trek offended him on levels that, to this, at this point in my life, I'm going, good, but
Well,
you know,
that's something that a lot of younger people really need to understand. There's this thing that goes around where they're trying to rewrite it to where Star Trek really wasn't that groundbreaking. It was.
Oh, it was so groundbreaking, yeah.
And the thing is that Star Trek, even at the time when it premiered, had to fight because the biggest science fiction show on television was Lost in Space. And Lost in Space was more of a traditional sci-fi program versus this other show, which was all about thinking and working out problems and people working together, all of whom are smart. Well, wait a minute. That's because it's science fiction. Right. And it's not trying to basically fulfill certain categories of storytelling that all seem to be the basic tropes for a lot of sci-fi that Hollywood was into.
Right. And Lost in Space was basically Leave It to Beaver in space.
Yeah. It was Leave It to Beaver, really the Swiss Family Robinson, and the original idea was different. I enjoy the original Lost in Space, the original the way it was conceived. I am not a big fan of the Doctor. I'm not a big fan of adding him to the cast. I like the original concept of the fact that the Robinson family would basically just meet all of these sort of trials and tribulations as they tried to get back home. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about the Netflix version of it. Their version, which was really well done. I keep telling people all the time, that's a nice way of reviving a concept and doing it in a different way. But in their greatest thing was to take the original concept of the show and do an entire show around that. I'm not saying Dr. Smith was a completely bad character, but in my mind and the way that I saw it, he didn't fit at all.
Right.
Even though his very presence created kind of like a dichotomy, and I understood what they were trying to do. I mean, any normal military person probably would have told Smith, "Hey, look, hey, right over there. Here's a weapon. Yeah. You can use it to shoot me," and toss it out of the ship. And the moment he leaves, you close it up and leave. Just leave him on the nearest planet. This is the guy that tried to kill you. I mean, as a husband and father, somebody tries to kill me. That's one thing. You try to kill my family, and it's time for you to meet Elvis.
Or if you're an idiot about it, if it's by intent or incompetence, if you're a threat to those I love, I don't understand why they ever kept him around.
But that was the thing. You couldn't do it in front of the child.
Right.
That's the thing.
Look who's here.
It's Mr. Michael Decker. Yeah. Hey, Decker, you are more than welcome to come on the show today. Seriously, if you got any time, just jump on, man.
I don't have his contact.
And the thing about this particular comment is it is so accurate in a lot of ways, and partly because of something you mentioned earlier. Trek originally had to fight for a lot of things, not just against Lost in Space, but against its own production staff. Its own production, producers, because they were breaking ground, and they were doing things that were not done in the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, just having, and this is from somebody in the 70s, just having an Asian and a black woman. I mean, that was like a triple threat in two characters, and and an alien, on the bridge was just an affront to my, to my racist mofo of a dad, of a stepdad, and which is why I count myself lucky as to having watched it, a lot of the episodes before, like late night, things
Yeah.
when I wasn't supposed to be up, or when, or before my parents got home, was where I saw a lot of it. And to me, that became, okay, this is the thing. This is how it works, in sci-fi. And this was also before I did a lot of reading, because when you get to some of the sci-fi authors, in the 60s and 70s, they were still very much, white dudes uber alles,
Well, but that also leads to the other thing about it.
Mhm.
One of the things about Star Trek
Mhm.
is that one of the people that actually initially was not that impressed with it was Isaac
Mhm.
Asimov.
Mhm.
And after correspondence between himself
Mhm.
and Gene Roddenberry, that eventually changed. Two of them
Mhm.
ended up becoming really, really good friends. And
Right.
Asimov became a really big champion of the show.
Mhm.
This was a show that benefited having some of the best science fiction writers that Gene Roddenberry could get.
Mhm.
These were all people that, almost 60 years on, you can look back and see what all of these writers were able to
Mhm.
accomplish in their careers
Mhm.
before and after working on Star Trek. And they
Right.
all went on to great things. They all went
Right.
on to have success.
Oh yeah.
I
Well, and
cannot see that with the current people running Star Trek, because these people aren't really interested in that. They're
well,
not
and if
interested
they
in being
are,
authors. I mean, that's
yeah,
the other thing about Star Trek. There were
right.
more people that were writing for this show that either
Mhm.
had literary careers before and or after
Mhm.
writing for Star Trek.
Yeah.
So they knew how to tell stories. They were all storytellers.
Well, and
And
Roddenberry also, went out of his way, I think, to get storytellers that were not just contemporary storytellers.
yes.
And I think that's the big problem. The weakest problem with current Trek is that, you know, Star Trek, Roddenberry got people who were doing a lot of things, a lot of things that were truly controversial, not in line with the current thinking.
Yeah.
And, you know, and today, you would have a really hard time getting that through, just, anything that's new and controversial, getting through just like you would have then. And Anima brought up a good point. They brought in the Russian, and my, uh, that I heard, again, even in the 70s in rural South Texas, them damn foreigners, you know,
Well,
and
but
and it was,
that brings us though to something that
hmm
doesn't get talked about a lot
hmm
when it comes to Star Trek.
hmm
Okay, and I know that there are a lot of you out there that keep seeing all the
hmm
memes and everything about Lucy and all of that, but let me tell you something. As
hmm
much as I enjoy Lucille Ball and the company that she and her husband built, okay,
hmm
all this stuff about her being all about Star Trek is just BS. It's BS.
hmm
Okay. First of all, what it shows is the people who end up doing this and saying this stuff have no earthly idea what
hmm
Desilu was like at that point. All the different TV shows, you notice they only do Lucy is the godmother of Star Trek. You never hear her being the godmother of Mission Impossible.
hmm
You know, you never hear her being the godmother of the Andy Griffith Show
Mhm.
or the Untouchables. It's all true. All of it. And the biggest difference was she didn't sell the company out from underneath a lot of those shows the way that she did to Star Trek. Whatever you can say about Lucy,
Mhm.
season 2 was a whole different thing. All that stuff may have been true during season 1.
Mhm.
Still lasted 3 seasons, and she ended up selling to Paramount. So by season 2, Paramount was pretty much running the show.
Right.
And so, and I get it. She gave them an opportunity for a second pilot. I get all that, but that's the extent of her working on anything related to Star Trek, because she had this company to run.
Yeah.
It also
She
shows
was.
you didn't understand who she was as both a creative and a performer.
Mhm.
You know, people act like she was sitting in her office and one day Star Trek rolls around and goes, "Finally, I can do something." It's like, no,
Right.
she was constantly busy. She had
Yeah.
a studio to run. She may
Well,
have
she was.
given a little
Mhm.
money, but that's
Mhm.
as far as that went.
Right. She
Period.
was the NPC who gave them the, who happened to give them the quest marker.
Pretty
You know.
much. And indirectly, too, because she look, as far as I'm concerned, she had no earthly idea who they were.
Right.
Okay. She had no earthly idea. She understood 3 things.
Mhm.
Okay. She understood that being a mom and a wife.
Mhm.
She understood having control over her TV show.
Mhm.
And she understood her relationship of that she had with, at that time, CBS,
Mhm.
which were the people that were running her show. Now, that doesn't mean that she didn't respect the fact that Andy Griffith and all of its
Mhm.
spinoffs, The Untouchables, Mission Impossible, and all these other TV shows that were under the umbrella of Desilu, that doesn't mean that she didn't respect those shows or didn't respect the people who were making them. But for revisionists to come out later and try to make it seem like she was all about Star Trek,
Mhm.
that didn't happen. And because they
Mhm.
keep forgetting how old she was.
Mhm.
You know, Lucy was in her late 40s, almost 50s by that time. She is an older woman
Mhm.
running a studio. And obviously the monetary, the first of all, the day-to-day complications of running a huge studio with so many TV shows, including her own show that she was producing and running at that
Yeah.
time. So when you look at the mountain of everything that she had to deal with, she had no real dealings with the day-to-day operations of the studio. That was her
Yeah.
second husband. That's the one who she put in charge after she divorced Desi. She got married again and placed her second husband in charge of running the day-to-day operations of the studio.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah, I mean, she was. I can see it come across her desk and thinking this is pretty cool. Let's make sure it gets out there. But after a certain point, yeah, it's like that's a
I don't
blip
even
on
think
her
it went
radar.
I don't even think it went that far.
Hmm.
I believe the story about her not understanding what Star Trek was.
Right.
Given her age, given everything she had to do, she
Hmm.
was a gifted creative.
Hmm.
Okay, people try to stack stuff on top of what she did to enhance her. She didn't need that. Lucy didn't need you to make up things for her.
Right.
Okay, she was already incredible without all of the other stuff. You didn't need to try
Right.
to create this
Well,
relationship
I
with Star
mean,
Trek.
right. I
She
mean,
was
she had to
already-
at least she had to at least have something to go, yeah, let's throw some money at this. So something about it appealed to her.
What it came down to, as according to the book that was written by the man who she hired to be in charge of programs for Desilu. When he says, look, she didn't really have that much to do with it, you got to believe him. Not just because he said so, but because he kept all the paperwork. He had the memos. That's what I keep telling all the Star Trek fans. Read that book. Read it. Right. It'll answer all your questions. You get everything. You have an understanding of Star Trek that it's not possible to get, even in talking to any of the actors, because people's memories, humans' memories over time falter. Okay. And as we were able to establish, there were a lot of stories about Star Trek that mainly came out of discussions that were had at conventions with many of the guest stars and actors, mainly the actors, who were all doing Star Trek conventions with the exception of Nimoy and Shatner. Okay? Well, why was that? Well, because both those guys were in demand and they were working hard. Okay? Not to say that everybody else wasn't working hard, but their careers, they didn't have the same kind of careers that the other two had. And a lot of that will lead to, and DeForest Kelley, just to put it out there, he retired. Okay? So all the other actors who, for whatever reason, when talking about their time on Star Trek, all of them had a Shatner story. They all had their own axes to grind. And they all made it seem like, especially when you look at a lot of their books, like Shatner made this great deal and was making all this money more than they were. The fact of the matter, as backed up by the official book about the making of Star Trek, is that Shatner got a divorce.
Oh yeah, and he was, and he had to work to to keep his head above water.
That's
I mean, Shatner was not this, he was not this god, but he was just a hardworking dude.
That's right. He found, look, nobody expected Star Trek to become what it was. And that is only because his career wasn't that easy, that he ended up doing many of the things that he ended up doing. Meaning, he said yes to the animated series.
Because the man needed the work.
He needed to work. He was making sure his kids got everything they needed. Okay. And that's saying a lot nowadays. There are some people or some men out there that probably wouldn't give a hootie boo at all about any of that stuff. But he made sure he did right by his kids, and he tried to do right by his ex, and make sure they had everything they need.
Yeah. And him and Nimoy had careers. D. Kelly, Nimoy, all had careers before and after Trek.
Yes.
Kelly retired. Nimoy had his own things going, and Nimoy, coming off as Spock, had his own. He
went off and he immediately got another job. He replaced the guy that almost became Spock. So Nimoy, he didn't even have to leave the studio lot.
Right, because he went to Mission Impossible.
He went to Mission Impossible, and he replaced the actor that was up for the part of Spock originally.
Right.
And so
he was that dude's nemesis. That's a full-time job.
and on top of that, he ended up playing a character that was pretty much like the character of the guy who left. It was basically the same character, just a different name.
Right. Yeah.
And Snotapoopas, Cuba. Yeah, that is true. He was living in a truck. That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. That has been confirmed. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, when you're a man who is he was 35 when the show hit. He wasn't even 40 when the show left the air. And yeah, he needed money. And so he took whatever he could get. You know, that's not a guy who was part of a show that became a hit after the fact, taking advantage of all this stuff that he was supposedly getting that they had talked about in different conventions. But a lot of that really wasn't true.
Right.
You know, if you really had to rank who actually personally got more out of the show when they left the air, that was Nimoy.
Yeah. Oh, Nimoy. I mean, Nimoy created a legend in Spock, and Nimoy. I mean, he came in the whole like the hand sign. That's I can't remember if that's it's
The Vulcan,
Buddhist.
the Vulcan salute. Yes.
Yeah. Was from a separate religion. He was a very he was a very good choice to play the science guy because he was he knew a lot of things. So yeah, and original Star Trek was the it introduced a lot of things like the IDIC, and the infinite diversity and infinite combinations,
Yes.
And it broke ground in so many places, and it did it, like someone back there had said, oh god, I'm gonna have to scroll back to find it about being subtle about it. It did it in ways that weren't obvious, but they were there.
You didn't need to lecture people.
Yeah.
You didn't
Well, I
need
mean,
to
just
get in their faces and do this, which is all current Trek is. It's all about virtue signaling and lecturing people. And that's the reason why people are not responding. That's the reason why realistically, I'd have to say that the current version of Trek has only kept maybe 1/4 of the Star Trek fandom. That's it.
Yeah. Well,
that's how much they lost.
Right. Well, and also, in the 60s, Trek was having a scene where you had Uhura, take the helm as a competent officer, having Uhura, and a lot of my favorite stuff, centers around Uhura. Is having her actually show that she is a competent technician.
Yes.
Start basically, getting in there and fixing damaged things on the bridge. I mean, it was subtle, but it pissed off all the right people.
But let me at least say this though. I don't think Roddenberry did it to piss people off. You have to remember that Roddenberry is of an age where he can remember when science fiction for people of a certain age was something that became very popular to a lot of young people, one of which was Roddenberry himself. You had they began to sell a lot of books here in the United States, and you had this whole new generation of authors who were coming up and writing and doing things, one of which was Isaac Asimov, who himself was not really a typical science fiction author anyway, because he was actually a professor himself. He was someone who was teaching, but he was someone who also could write scholarly works on science, but he also allowed his imagination to wander and be free and wrote about the stuff that he would dream up. He did both. Published scientific books, but he also published works of fiction. And where the conventions and stuff actually come from is they were born out of the science conventions that a lot of those people would attend. You could have groups of professors who taught at various universities, other people who worked in laboratories and stuff. They would all get together to discuss the latest scientific breakthroughs. Well, some of the stuff they would discuss is, hey, did you read this book that talked about this theory? And some of that would stretch into the fictional. And to the point where eventually you started having a lot of people that would they look forward to going to lectures and stuff that was about the fictional stuff as opposed to real world stuff they were doing. And so a lot of conventions were born, the conventions that we know were born out of gatherings like that.
Right.
And so, again, we have a much nobler and better history than what we actually remember or talk about. You know, science fiction is just something that was born in our modern times more out of the desperate need for those who were social outcasts or those who were too smart to be able to express themselves and be around people like themselves to talk and have fun with this. And that gets, you know, you get so used to it that you kind of forget that there was a time when it wasn't really that cool. You know, it wasn't cool to discuss a lot of this stuff.
Right. And I think, that's one of the things that modern science fiction has to learn to deal with in a different way. Because, you know, Asimov's, for instance, one of the things about Asimov's, you know, in watching the video you sent me the other day about a Foundation, because I understand why Asimov originally would not have been a big fan of Roddenberry's work at the time, is because Roddenberry only concentrated on one particular aspect of Foundation, and Asimov was busy looking at the big picture. You know, in terms of if you look at the arc of Foundation as opposed to what Roddenberry presented, when you look at what Asimov did, one of his big things with the whole, you know, with, for instance, Foundation, which I did know this before I watched this, was that he was focusing on the softer sciences like psychohistory, was the study of economics and sociology and things like it wasn't so much, atomic fusion and laser beams, and faster than light travel. It was the concept of us being able to predict history and see an empire, and basing it on Gibbon's Roman Empire book on the Roman Empire is, I mean, Asimov was so well read, and I think that is the thing that we don't have as much anymore, simply because we have so much else that can occupy our time.
But but you notice, though, a lot of great science fiction shows that have come along in the years since Star Trek. When you look at shows like Babylon 5, when you look at even Stargate, I have been saying for years that Paramount should have just gone out and they still could do this. That once they launch a Star Trek show that is away from Goldsman and Kurtzman and away from what they do, once you launch a good Star Trek series, it would be great to try to get a lot of the people who worked on those shows to at least submit a script for whatever new show you have, because there are so many people that were fans of it. All of the different ways that Stargate had little references to Star Trek.
Oh yeah,
all of the ways that Babylon 5 made their own references to Star Trek, and it starts out that a lot of people within the business who grew up to actually create their own original stuff were still fans of this decades later. There is something to this, and again, I was one of those people that was pushing Paramount to just go get J. Michael Straczynski and have him just create a Star Trek show for them. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
fire
that would be-
Kurtzman, fire Goldsman, and just let J. Michael Straczynski do it, because there is nothing like letting a fan do something like that, and that was one of the unfortunate things about Star Trek Discovery. You know, the original idea behind Star Trek Discovery was giving a Star Trek fan the opportunity to actually create a Star Trek show. And somehow that fan, Brian Fuller, ended up getting fired, and thus Alex Kurtzman, a self-admitted non-Star Trek fan, you gave him the opportunity to create not just one Star Trek show, but to basically just do damage to whatever he was attempting to make with all the other stuff that he ended up coming out with later. And again, I have never known anyone to know success by allowing someone in there who is a self-admitted non-fan of what they're doing.
Right.
I am that right now is where Star Trek has been. It's where Star Wars and Marvel currently are. I mean, no wonder they're not doing so well. And again, I'm not saying you have to let someone who is the uber fan come in, but they at least have to be a fan. You can't just have somebody that isn't.
Yeah, you have to love what you're doing. You have to love the source material in order for it to be any good. Otherwise, this is my my beef with Alien 3. Because you could, to me, that was someone just trying to end the series and trying to do something shitty with it, and that's been my beef with Discovery. You could tell this was not written by a Trek fan, because they couldn't work within what they had. They had to try and retell old stories. And you and I are in perfect agreement on this. Anything new for Trek needs to come after next gen.
After what they should have done with the idea for Discovery was to put it after Nemesis.
Yeah.
As a Starship idea, it makes more sense post Nemesis. Everything really about it makes more sense. And okay, and there was somebody in the chat talking about JJ. Look, I give JJ a hard time myself. Okay, but the reason why I concentrate really on
Kurtzman.
on Discovery and Goldsman and Kurtzman is this.
Yeah.
JJ was smart enough to understand that if you're going to make a Star Trek movie with the original characters but not have the original cast, he was smart enough to go, let's set it in a different universe and everything's okay. And he was right. You set it in a different universe and everything's okay. If you look, Trek fans who have followed Star Trek, who have watched all 79 episodes, whether you know it or not, Kirk's life story, a good portion of it is inserted into a lot of episodes over the course of 79 episodes. So you have a pretty good idea of who Kirk was prior to becoming the captain of the Enterprise. I'm not saying we know every single thing, but there were a lot of dramatic opportunities that Strange New Worlds blatantly sidestepped and is not taking advantage of. And definitely Kurtzman was never going to do it because he and his people never watched the show.
Right.
Them and their writers have only seen maybe 5 or 6 episodes of Star Trek.
Right.
And
so Real Popcorn Geek, letting Rockney S. O'Bannon run Trek. As a fan of Farscape, I am 100% with you on that.
O'Bannon would have fun with it, but that's the thing.
O'Bannon would. Mhm.
All of these people deserve to at least write an episode for whatever new
Yeah.
Star Trek show. Because
Right.
can you think of JMS and what he would write for an episode of Star Trek, or what Rockney S. O'Bannon would write, or what?
We'll see. Yeah, if O'Bannon follows what he did with Farscape, we would get Muppets in space. I mean, you know,
and it would make more sense than what
it would
they
make
did
more
on
sense.
Strange
Yeah,
New Worlds. Yeah,
because
it wouldn't be a Buffy ripoff. But
right, because what O'Bannon did with Farscape, that I absolutely love, is that he made Farscape non-military. It was sci-fi that was not military based.
Yes.
And that was brilliant. You have a crew that is not a crew. You have, but still getting it together. One of the things, pigs in space, right? Poor child, I hear you, man. But he one of my favorite episodes, and I can't remember what it was because I'm not the kind of guy who will remember episode names. I'll go that episode when, which is kind of like going with friends, but was where Aaron had to start learning science. You have the gun toting military chick, becoming the scientist, in the episode, and it was just brilliant. I mean, all those character arcs, O'Bannon really knew how to make the characters, come alive. Straczynski would manage to make it both political but very human. And you would get lines out of that one that would include, if you value your lives, be somewhere else. Because Straczynski knows how to do very powerful, just hit you in the face, stuff. I would love to see these folks do episodes, Trek episodes.
Yeah, it would just, but the added benefit is, being a fan of something, you would also know that you're getting their best, because they would feel very good about being able to be a fan and add something to Star Trek. That's like being a musician and getting the opportunity to play with your favorite band.
Well, it's like being an actor and being in Star Trek or Star Wars or James Bond. If you're a fan of it, you're going to deliver not only your best effort, but your most enthusiastic efforts, because this is the thing that you love, and that shows. It's just like, they say people can hear when you're smiling when you talk. People can see when you're enthusiastic about a thing. Yeah.
It show. Yeah, it does show. It does show in everything that you do about it. When it makes me think of when it makes me think about, seriously, when you have like the Muppet Show, and when they were able to have I think it was Mark Hamill and some of the cast members from Star Wars, who were over in England, I think at the time, filming The Empire Strikes Back. And you have this feeling, you could tell from the way the episode went, from everybody that wrote it, performing it, that they were all fans of Star Wars. But you also got that from Mark Hamill and Peter Mayhew and others who were coming in that were also fans themselves of the Muppets. It created one of those all-time great episodes of the show.
Oh yeah.
You can have a lot of things happen when you bring in people who enjoy each other's work. And to run away from that for any reason just never made any sense to me. One of my biggest questions is why Paramount never moved heaven and earth to get Arnold Schwarzenegger in a Star Trek movie, considering he's such a big Star Trek fan.
Yeah, no, I mean you would get actual good acting out of Schwarzenegger.
Well, he was a fan of Star Trek, but he was a really big fan of The Next Generation, and
Mhm.
to have not figured out a way of getting him to cameo in any of your episodes,
Mhm.
to not having an opportunity to get Robin Williams on an episode of Next Generation, even though he was a big fan.
Oh God, Robin Williams on it. You could give the scriptwriters the day off.
Well, but that episode was made.
Mhm.
They wrote an episode for him, and he
Yeah.
wasn't able to do it. And what
Oh
it was
man.
is that Matt Frewer replaced Robin Williams in that
Mm.
episode. It's supposed to be that it's the episode where Matt Frewer plays the time
Barclay?
traveler from the future that comes into
Oh.
the past, and it turns out that he lied. He's actually from the distant past,
Mm.
and has this time machine from somebody that was out far in the future that went back to his time period in the 22nd century, and he went to the 23rd century to liberate a few items, and
Right.
to enrich
So he's
himself,
basically playing Booster Gold.
basically.
Yeah, reverse.
But,
So yeah.
but-
oh,
guys,
man.
give me
Yeah.
a second to acknowledge we have Mr. Tickle Trunk. Dude,
hey,
you've been so missed. Good to see you, man. And yes,
how are you, Mr. Tickle Trunk?
Muppet Track. Let's
Muppet
make
Track,
that a
yeah.
hashtag. Oh, wait, no. Muppets are
Muppet
not
Take.
property now.
Yeah, but we can
No.
make
It's
Muppet
Muppet
Track.
Track.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love Pigs in Space. Trust me, I thought it was great. But but to have something that has been around as long as Star Trek has, to give
Mhm.
an opportunity to so many people in the business that
Mhm.
were just big fans of Star Trek, and to give them
Mhm.
a Star Trek show to not only be
Mhm.
proud of, but something that they could write an episode for.
Mhm.
You know, we've named so many writers, and there are probably so many more
Oh, yeah.
that would love the opportunity to at least write one episode. After being interviewed, Ronald D. Moore still thinks about it. I still
Mhm.
think, to me, Ronald D. Moore is at the top of my list. If I
Mhm.
was to give anybody the opportunity to create a new Star Trek series, I
Mhm.
would want Ronald D. Moore, because he's done it
Right.
before.
Yeah.
I mean, not done it. That's part of the reason why he left. He's been there before. He worked a long time working different Trek
Mhm.
shows, working different characters. He knows how it goes. And as
Right.
far as Seth MacFarlane would be great too. But you know what? Even if they never gave him an opportunity to create a show, you
Mhm.
give him an opportunity to write an episode.
Yeah. Well, and there's almost a level of reverence to the point where, like, if someone, and this will never happen, but one can daydream. If someone ever said, "Hey Ben, want to write a Star Trek show?" I would have to say, "No, I'm not there. I am not that good." I'm going, dude, you do not know what you're asking. I would have to, you would have to convince me that I could do that, because there is just, Trek, there's a level of, it's one of those things.
Ben,
Trek and Star Wars, I would say, yeah,
Ben,
yeah.
Ben, look at this way.
Mhm.
Could have a shot to erasing all the new Trek from canon. Think about it.
There are parts of it there, like I've said before, much to Keith's chagrin, there are parts of it I enjoy. I wouldn't want to erase all of it. I would want to go through and erase most of it, but not all of it.
Well, then you'll be happy to know that as of right now, okay.
Mhm.
Mr. Tickle Trunk strikes again. As of right now,
dude, have you read my shit?
there are discussions, and it's looking more and more like we might be getting some version of Star Trek
Mhm.
Legacy. Okay,
That I think would be
aka the 7
cool.
of 9 show or Captain 7 show.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say that for those that haven't figured it out yet, okay, for those of you who still think that all this newer Trek stuff is great stuff, understand something. For
Mhm.
those that have been asking for a Star Trek Legacy show, you do realize that Alex Kurtzman himself is the one that's been lying to you and saying that he's not in charge of that. He is, because the contract that he has says that he can do anything he wants. The very fact that you don't even have a show like that, and he went ahead and did Section 31 anyway, tells you what he actually thinks.
Yeah.
Tells you that his ego is so out of control and that he is such a you know what? I'm not going to describe the rest of it. I'm not going to finish that particular sentence because that way lies madness. But I will say this: his ego is so out of control, like what I have heard, that he couldn't bear to work on anything that wasn't something that he actually could either take full credit for, or at least be the guiding light behind it. Basically, the success of Picard season 3 screwed him royally. On the one hand, it's probably the most successful thing they've ever done from beginning to end. But on the other thing, a lot of people, shows like this, were talking about how good it was, especially since Kurtzman wasn't involved. And that hurt his ego badly. You know, his ego is still taking a hit and battle damage from all of the damage received from fans of how much they like Picard season 3.
Right. Well, and see, that's I think where Kurtzman runs into a lot of problems. Kurtzman still writes from ego.
He always has. He always
Yeah,
has. He's not capable of doing anything else.
Right.
That's his problem.
Yeah, Kurtzman's ego gets in the way of a lot of what he does. And you know, he is trying to you tell it shows up in a lot of what he does.
Well, what you have are characters that really the biggest faulting for when he creates anything is that you really don't care about those characters.
Right.
I know a lot of people who really get into his shows and for whatever reason, but I can't tell you the name of anybody that's on that ship. And the thing is, I don't care enough about any of them. You know, they did an episode, one of them dies. Who cares? And I'm talking from an average person's perspective coming into it. You just don't care. You know, when you first sat down and you started watching The Next Generation, okay, you realize this isn't Kirk and Spock and McCoy and those guys. It's a different kind of show. It's a show that's run in a different way.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't so radically different that you didn't recognize that it was Star Trek.
Yeah.
But you did learn that these characters all had a personality. They had ways of doing things. And you know, it was good to see them work together. You could tell they really liked being with one another. Unfortunately, probably for Kurtzman, he couldn't really tell a lot of that because nobody was mouthing off at the wrong time. You know, you didn't get Picard giving an order and Data telling, you know, Picard, oh, wait a minute, I got a personal problem I'd like to discuss on board the ship right now.
Right.
And take time out of the plot to go do that. You know, it's just,
yeah. Well, and that was one of the things that that I think made original Trek so cleanly written was because they were all professionals.
Yes.
You know, it was only when they stopped being professionals that problems arose. And usually it took something external to keep that, you know, to make that happen. You know, when Spock is acting out of character, it's not because Spock is having a personal crisis. It's because something, the spores are in his head. When Spock is acting weird, it's because he's from the mirror universe. I mean, and it's where they become. And again, you had great writers who were trying to go in new directions, and we also, if you look at Trek today, you could say it was all virtue signaling because it's normal stuff now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't virtue signaling. It was very subtly going, this is where we could be. And
Yeah,
I think
the other thing is that you can definitely tell that the writers are people that aren't really interested in writing Star Trek.
Yeah.
They're interested in writing other things, and they just happen to call it Star Trek.
Right.
I tell all of these writers, look, I know you don't like what I have to say about your show, but let me at least help you. Okay. I think your talents would be better served writing the new Buffy series. I think all of you should hand in your 2-week severance notice and go and try to get jobs working in the new Buffy show. I think your talent would be better. Yeah, you guys are fans.
Yeah.
Go right for that.
Right.
The people behind The Expanse would be better people to write a Star. Look, basically, The Expanse was a good example of what they originally tried to do on Enterprise. Have you heard about what the original conceived version of the television series Enterprise was?
I don't think so. Probably haven't heard what you've heard.
Well, originally the show was to take place over the course of a season. They wouldn't even launch to get into space until the end of the first season.
Okay.
So it was about the ins and outs of trying to build and launch a starship. And it would have taken them a full season just to get to the point where the new ship would launch and they would start in their adventure. And it was to kind of almost take a little bit of a West Wing type of approach into the subtleties behind the scenes of what it took for humans to actually venture out into space with Vulcans and other creatures out there. I like that.
Yeah, because I can see the benefits in that, because I think it would have done one of the things that they were trying to do throughout the first season of Enterprise, which was highlight the interference, and the pushback they were getting from the Vulcans trying to make the humans do it a specific way. Humans are not going to do it that way. You give them 2 warp drives, they're going to ask for a third because they've done something crazy with one. And, or they wanted to see what would happen if they linked 2 warp drives together, if you could go twice as fast.
Hey, what can we say? What
right.
Can we say?
Well, that's
but also, I like the idea that we might end up getting an Archer series out of this. I would like to see what's going on with Archer right now. And the proposed Archer TV series, I just dig that entire premise of seeing him as the president of the Federation in a West Wing style show that's all about how you would run such a massive organization like that and the formative years of what we would eventually know as the Star Trek universe.
If I was to write Star Trek, I think one of the things that I would concentrate on is colonization.
Yeah.
What it's like to handle colonies, why certain colonies do not have the resources that they need, that kind of thing, because that's part of the exploration aspect of Trek that I adore, is the idea of, hey, we're going to this planet and we're going to set up, because we're exploring, we're creating a new civilization, all of that. I mean, if I was to write a Stargate series, I don't think they'd ever see Earth. It'd be a bunch of people who found a library and go, oh look, let's go exploring, or people who get off world and don't know the dial for their home world, trying to get back home. I mean,
there's all different ways to go. And there are a lot of really different, really cool ideas that even as Star Trek fans, stuff that we would want to see. Now, Brian Fuller's original pitch, oh, wait a minute, Mr. Pickle Trunk says the Expanse turned to dog water during seasons 5 and 6. The writers' room incorporated modern day Activision as well. All seasons 1 through 3, some of the best written science fiction in the last decade.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And it was a really good show, really well done show. And again, even for the dog water stuff of 5 and 6, still better than the best episodes of any of the Kurtzman era Star Trek stuff. Period.
Right.
I don't care what show you mention in that era. To me, it's all the same. I'm not saying that they should get rid of it and burn it or anything. I'm just saying you can improve all of that by just putting it within its own universe. And my thing is, why end Strange New Worlds? If you set it up as its own thing, different from the real history, if you set it up as its own thing, you can continue to have Pike in command of the Enterprise and just have all these new adventures, new worlds, and new ways of doing things whose history is separate from the actual history of the Enterprise and its crew that we know and love.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's pretty much what JJ did. Let's see, Michael Decker says, like the comics industry, writers demand to put their own mark on characters versus writing a good story. Ego as usual. That, my friend, is it. That is the problem. That is the problem right there. Too many people do not understand that you're only a temporary custodian of an idea and IP that you didn't invent.
Right. And see, and for me, the ego would be to, how can I explore this part of the character that is there that has been left fallow? That's where you want to go. Nobody has explored this part of, say, Harley Quinn or Batman or Jason Todd, like this person did.
Well, that's kind of what they were going to do with Star Trek. Brian Fuller's original pitch was to do an anthology Star Trek series.
Right. We were talking about
kind of like American Horror Story, where each season is a whole new group of characters and a whole new situation, exploring a different part of what they were uncovering. Yeah. And that makes sense. Unfortunately, Les Moonves and CBS decided, no, we're going to take one of your ideas for your anthology series and just turn that into a show.
Right.
And then we're going to fire you and bring in the guy that says he never liked Star Trek.
Right. I mean, you could do an entire series. And by the way, Tickle Trunk, Ben the Colonizer. So, different kind of colonization, not taking over, we're still following the Prime Directive, man.
That's not what you said to me in the backstage.
Hush!
No. Oh, wow.
It's hey, you know what? I will take that after what I open the show with on. I will put myself and throw myself in front of that truck. But yeah, I mean, you could do an entire season of Star Trek Merchant Trader,
Yeah.
It just exploring what I mean, can you imagine how many, okay, now my brain is going, can you imagine how many different kinds of economies that you would have to deal with? I mean, we did a LARP. I do live action role playing. I am that big of a nerd. uh you know and one of the things that we did was we found ourselves in an economy that didn't use coin. And so I had to trade different things. It was back to bartering, you know, and what it was and Michael Decker, don't let me forget to mention how I use hold my Romulan ale. But it's it's if you had where you were having to trade stories, or something like that. um which idea did you have, Peter Venkman? do but it's just that would be an entire season of explaining of exploring that kind of story.
Yeah.
This is what the Trekverse is, because also you have a federation that claims it doesn't use currency, but it's dealing with and that was, I think, the thing that original Trek did so well,
Yeah.
was explore those different things. Because again, it was Roddenberry pitched it as Wagon Train to the Stars, but it was more more of a it was more of an exploration, more of a let's see what's out there and let's explore, because it also cast a light on current society without making that light too harsh.
Yeah.
And let it cast its own shadows.
How about this, Ben?
Mhm.
Rulus Acquisition screenplay by the one, Ruben.
Well, first I'd have to learn how to write a screenplay.
Wow.
But I could I was thinking more of an Orion trader, but I could, because the Ferengi became too much of the butt of a joke. And I think Armin Shimmerman would be the best person to write a Ferengi novel.
Wow.
But it's one of those things of, that's the thing that Trek has always done so well, is show us different perspectives in a light that lets us see it without basically casting too harsh a shadows for us to, that makes us immediately go, no.
I just miss the enthusiasm from
Mhm.
the creative side of Star Trek.
Mhm.
Fans have been really working to try to keep the enthusiasm up, but
Mhm.
Kurtzman and his people have just, oh man, they try you.
Right.
They
Yeah.
really do try you.
Well, and I think one of the things that, because I don't know that any actor or on the original series ever wrote or directed an episode. In Next Gen, Frakes got his directing feet under him. I know Frakes directed several episodes. I don't know if any other actors wrote or directed another episode, but we see the actors telling the stories as well. And they had, in Next Gen, they became the fans themselves. Keith is going, to the internet, I must learn this now.
You got me.
I can see. Mhm.
I guess it is easy to tell how much I really have loved the experience of Star Trek, and for me, it wasn't just the shows; it was the supplementary materials, whether it's the Franz Joseph schematics and plans, or the
Mhm.
technical manual, or the concordance, or any one of the multitude of novels and books that have been written.
Mhm.
It's definitely the gift that definitely keeps on giving.
Oh yeah,
Is
absolutely.
Yeah.
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 As far as to my original question, Frakes, Burton, Roxanne Dawson, Gates McFadden,
Yeah.
directed an episode, which I find wonderful, and I think Rainn Wilson. I remember hearing
Yeah.
Avery Brooks did. Dorn directed at least one episode of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Robert Duncan McNeil, Roxanne Dawson, Tim Russ.
Yeah.
He directed Living Witness. Roxanne Dawson also directed on Enterprise. And so yeah, and LeVar Burton, DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise. Siddig, Picardo, Patrick Stewart. I mean, you've got, and I think that cross pollination is so vital to what makes what makes the pre 2017 Trek, pre Kurtzman Trek good. Is like like we have talked, like we have both said many times, you had fans involved in in the work. Mr. Tickle Trunk, that good, yeah, the Data Dream episode. You must be like me, where you're going, I can't remember the name of the episode. I just know what happened.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but yeah, I think, man, Trek needs to get back in the hands of fans.
Yeah. It just needs that, because you can try it the other way, but you're just going to take longer. It's going to take longer to find someone who just randomly writes a Trek novel and is going to have all friends excited because of being, man, it helps if I get on camera. It's going to have all the fans excited for what can be, but also, in having a fan do it, you don't have to continue to repeat certain things that the audience that the audience already knows. It's one of the reasons why I was never a big fan of the movie Predator 2, because if you watch the first film, you already know all the different tips and tricks that the Predator was going to use. I found the story kind of weak, but I didn't like repeating everything that we had seen before. So
right, yeah, and Trek, Trek was the American version, I think, of Doctor Who, the one that the one series that just does not ever go away. It's evergreen, it's perennial, and 59 years later, a year older than I am, it is, yeah. It is and so technology also had to mirror Trek, because, and I'm going to show my age.
No, not your age.
We, the most, the early cell phones, man, this was like, how many of us who ever had a flip phone, did the Kirk flip, so, I mean, cell phones.
I did it.
Well, Martin,
yeah,
Dude, I was poor. I couldn't afford a new phone every 3 months because I fucking ruined it by flipping it like that.
No, yeah, I mean, but still, I mean, it's one of those things of Trek pointed, to how we could communicate, how we could, 3D printers, are basically the baby, the babies, replicators, you know. And Ty Baker, yeah, sitting in one room and commenting on. We're sitting in multiple rooms throughout the planet, you know, commenting on movies, you know, and agreeing and disagreeing. I mean, I will take these first world problems. You know, I will take this first world stress. You know, because I grew up, you know, I grew up fairly poor in South Texas, yeah, and you know, yeah, Peter Venkman, you know, following different ship and crew at different times in Trek. I mean, it's amazing what we could do. But yeah, to celebrate original Trek, I mean, that is
Well, again, as I started off before,
mhm.
this is the one. This is the one that pretty much started it all. And this didn't work. A lot of the other stuff didn't work. The basic
Right.
formula for what a Trek show was this one.
Mhm.
But you also, again, had all of these writers that were just incredible. And all of them wanted to do this. All of them wanted to be there. All of them had ways of putting their best foot forward with this show. And
Mhm.
had Star Trek just been financed the way that they had originally hoped that it would be, we even would have had a different looking show. You know, they were
Mhm.
going to use a lot more they were going to use a lot more mats than what they ended up using. They
Mhm.
were going to do a lot more with the sets than what they originally thought. I mean, there's a gentleman who, well, I mean, over the last few years, stuff has come out about what the original production was and how they
Mhm.
were to look. And when they
Mhm.
cleaned up all of that footage, you could tell that the
Mhm.
lighting was done a certain way, that certain primary colors were a part of the ship. There were 3 colors that were constantly a part of the ship. And each
Mhm.
color not only denoted that you were looking at something, but I think that each of the floors, depending on where you were on the ship, that
Mhm.
certain color would be dominant in the hallways and a lot of the rooms to also differentiate which floor you're on.
Mhm. Which,
You
yeah,
know,
and color scheming is something Lucas took. You know, and you know, when you're talking about that, one of the things I remember when the first Trek film came out was how cool it was that you could press a button on set and change what happened on the screen. Or in the original Trek, they had those just you couldn't make the screens change. It was just basically panels with lights. You know,
wow.
you know, and it was all switches and dials, you know, and you know, which at the time that was what we understood, you know, as technology. You know, technology was switches and dials. But yeah, but to real quick, where the hold my Romulan ale. I was talking to somebody about fandom on social media at one point, and someone said, "This doesn't happen," and I'm going, "Yeah, it does. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't happen." And they were like, "No, no, no." I'm like, so at that point, because we're talking about, I couldn't say hold my beer. I was just like, all right, hold my Romulan ale, and proceeded to prove that it actually did happen. But you know, just like, yeah, because Trek brought in Romulan ale um, as the universal drink of sci-fi.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I mean, in the late '80s, um, I was at in the SCA, had was friend of mine comes up, hands me this thing that is extremely blue, and says, you know, hey, check this out. A friend of mine smuggled this across the neutral zone and called it Romulan ale. And everybody around me got the joke without having to say Romulan ale. So yeah, I think that's the thing with Trek, is that it has become so universal to American sci-fi.
Excuse me. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely something that harkens back to a lot of the best things about science fiction. As I said before, as a genre and as escapist fare.
Yeah, and I think Trek overall is, it is uniquely the beginning of sci-fi being serious in the U.S.
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of us fans just want to see, going back to that and see what we can do. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of these actors are only going to be around a little while longer, and even less, really, when you think of the 66 series cast. I mean, we're now down to 3 of the bridge.
Right? Yeah, because we've got, man, who's left? I mean, you got Shatner, you've got Koenig, and Takei.
That's it.
That's all I can think of. So, but I think, yeah, we need to get back to the original spirit of Trek and let the fans have it.
Yeah.
Because when we get into, people who are not fans of that, I mean, that's got to be at least a minimum, requirement to write or produce Trek,
Yeah, but again, it's brought in enough money to where David Ellison and Skydance are thinking, they agree with what Paramount has said over the years, which is that Star Trek is a unique IP that definitely just should be back with us because we know exactly what to do with it.
Exactly. Well, and we know what it did for us, and what we want it to be able to do for for everybody else too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad it's and I'm glad we're doing this on the 59th, because that means we can do this on the 60th too. That gives us, next year we can do this more.
Well, I gotta, again, this is just an amazing show. Decades upon decades worth of material, both official and stuff that's a little more personal, private. There is no way you can talk about modern science fiction without Star Trek. And you increase your chance of when you read good classic science fiction, watching Star Trek really was something akin to just reading a really solid, well-written science fiction adventure book. That's exactly what it's always been to me. So.
Yeah. And I think, and some of the characters we got introduced to, Harry Mudd, that scoundrel, who had his next gen prototype, who I wish we'd have seen of more, is the Outrages of Kona. Because one of my favorite quotes is, life is like flying with twice your rated load of canaries. If you at least keep at least half of them flying all the time, you're okay.
That is true.
Tom Baker, this avatar is for you. There you go.
There we go. Yeah. Hang on a second. I got a cat that is desperately needing to be on the other side of a door. I'll be right back.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my God! I need a tour of that of that background.
Wow, Anima.
Yeah, that's cat.
I didn't even need to watch anything, even though I have. I agree with you. Ooh.
There.
I don't know.
All right.
I'm content with the jewels of the past. To be honest,
There we go.
Wow.
has been the beast tame.
All right. Yeah, one cat turned into two cats wanting out, so took a second. But yeah, I mean, after a certain point, original Trek just stands on its own.
Wow.
What?
Well, I couldn't get this page to open.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try again. Sorry. Not going to do it. Okay. Well, then I will.
Oh, so, put the link in the private chat, and I'll do my best to show it.
Well, it was something on my computer and I couldn't get it to open. So let me at least just say this. One of the definitive things about the biggest difference between, about this new Trek versus all the other Trek shows is the fact that all of the companies that made a lot of the merchandise, they were invited in. They were invited to CBS back around the time when all they had was the pilot. And every single one of those companies that were making a lot of money making next gen merchandise, the occasional DS9 Voyager stuff, and they were currently, with Enterprise. It was telling that almost to a person they really didn't care about any of those characters.
Yeah.
And they took one look at what they had. They were given the Bible for the show. They were given the outline of the episode, the pilot, and then they watched, I think they were allowed to watch the whole thing. And every single company said, we got nothing in this show. There is not one thing in here that is useful to us and useful for us to be able to make money at. That was it.
But then when you look at Star Trek merchandising after,
it's still majority of the same. I mean, a lot of it is class, what they deem classic, quote unquote, Trek sells very well consistently.
Oh, yeah.
And then all the other tracks just sort of file in behind that.
Right. And, and it's kind of funny because when you talking about how ubiquitous Trek is in fandom, one of the presentations I talk about when I talk about writing relies on a bad pun. But it's a Trek-based pun because I bring an old school phaser when I'm talking about Chekhov's gun. So, yeah. But everybody gets that joke. Introducing things in there and having them show up later on. But everybody understands when I'm holding up a old Trek phaser, that's Chekhov's gun. And yeah, I know it's bad. I'm a writer. Puns are part of my my love language. But yeah. But yeah, I don't man, there's not much more I could say about old Trek without getting into super geeky stuff that I haven't researched yet. I was I was digging, like I said, the whole idea where Trek built on a specific part of Asimov's Foundation trilogy, and just, you know, when you get back to it, Asimov influenced Trek so hard, and that's just a lineage you cannot deny.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I can't deny it.
You know, it's just like, yeah, if you're gonna build your bones on something, build it on classic sci-fi. You know.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know that there's much more I could add right there at this point. How about you, Keith?
Keith?
Yeah.
I said I don't know if there's much more that I can add to this. I mean, you after a certain point, the material speaks for itself.
Yeah. Oh, well, the material always has spoken for itself. That's the great thing about at least this particular program. And again, that's not a slight against any of the other shows.
Mhm.
But when you read about what it took to get it on the air and keep it on the air for the 3 seasons that it was around, it's a fascinating look behind the scenes at everything and everyone during this one particular time period in Hollywood history. I think there is never really going to be another show like this. I do not foresee families spending the kind of time at home that just, it's just painful to see when shows are treated a certain way by non-Star Trek fans who want to try to gaslight everybody into thinking that what they're making actually is Star Trek.
Right.
So it's just it's sad. More than anything else, it's sad. But again, we can celebrate the fact that every year we can celebrate September 8th and use that as an opportunity to celebrate everybody that contributed to the making of probably one of the best genre television shows of all time. And its ongoing legacy of just, I mean, just being the kind of seafaring captain that made it all sort of cool, you know.
Right. Oh yeah, it was just, and I think you hit right on there as the seafaring captain type thing. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I guess the other thing is that while we can talk about stuff like Horatio Hornblower, the thing is that these characters are so well written, and people love them so much. You don't need to have read, you know, Hornblower. You just need to, you know, be able to listen and understand who these characters are and where they are in their lives. That's the great thing about the television series. And again, I remember saying this on a previous show. When you really understand what Kirk's real story arc is, while a lot of people may not like how he died in Generations, a lot of what they did in that movie for that character pretty much matches what the character had established on the original series, starting with that all the way up and including Generations. So it's a way of using history to help create a different plot and a direction to go.
Right.
You don't get that with modern Star Trek. It's very singular humor. So.
Right. Well, and just the whole air about it, because like Nichelle Nichols, again, one of my favorite actors. Her was, as time went on, became more and more one of my favorite characters. Originally, I liked Sulu because he fenced, so it's like But Nichelle Nichols, after Trek, volunteered for NASA to get more women into the space program. I mean, they believed in what they were doing. It wasn't, originally for a lot of it may have just been a paycheck, but after a certain point, it became more than just a paycheck.
Yeah.
Something they could believe in. And that's the thing I think that current Trek misses is that it is something you could believe in, that is about the science fiction as opposed to the cultural agenda. Because I think that was where original Trek thrived, it was about science fiction, which is about the entirety of what human advancement was about, as opposed to whatever is currently popular. Because the same things that we saw back then, are still things that we have to deal with today, maybe just in different ways. But, we still need our Ahuras. We still need our Sulus. We still need our Spocks. We still need something that is saying, look where we could be.
Yeah.
Sorry, just kind of ranting and raving here.
Well, that's part of what we do here.
Right. This is true.
Well,
I have never ranted in my life. Ever.
Yeah.
That's true, Martin. You never have.
We know it's not true. Not happen very often, but when it happens, oh my God, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is today's show. I think we've talked, extensively about Star Trek and what it really means to us and what it means to the culture, and really what it means to you as the audience. Because again, I mean, for as many different shows that seem to really just pop up for us to watch streaming almost every week now, it seems like. It's good to know that we still have access to shows that are still popular, that the biggest thing they can do is not name any names because of how certain things were, but you use this as a way to discover more about these characters and also reveal who we are as a people, as a culture, as a country during this particular time period.
Yeah.
And I just think that Kurtzman and all his shows do not reflect any of that at all.
Right.
It's all very self-centered nature type stuff. So,
yeah.
That's where I'm at with it. It's a great thing. It's a big thing. I'm hoping we can get it beyond where we are right now to get to the next big thing, which I am really looking forward to. It's just a matter of choosing which of these ideas they're going to run right out and just start work on.
Right.
I wouldn't mind a legacy show, although it sounds like they are willing to negotiate and buy out the rights to a lot of these new characters. My personal thing is let Kurtzman keep his characters and just do it in a different room. I mean, they were going to cut us out anyway. So
right. But yeah, let's get it back in the hands of fans.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's all I got. I mean,
it's
the same thing a lot of us have been saying since Sumner Redstone divided the company in half. So,
Yeah.
Hey, Anima. Thank you, Lady Anima, everybody. So, Yes. Applause. James Caserta says, iconic archetypes: the brain, the heart, spirit, and the body. Yeah, you're right. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Well,
let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to. My computer's just. It's like, really? Did we not feed the hamster? Did somebody not feed the hamster? Oh wow. Okay.
Your
Hold
computer's
on.
still running on hamsters? My God, I upgraded to gerbils years ago.
I like that a lot. Okay. Well, I just want to say, look, it's always good to do this. I love doing it every year. I want to thank Ranger Donnie, Peter Venkman fan site, Mr. Tickle Trunk, the return of Mr. Tickle Trunk, Socks Bulletins, Tree Right Creations, and Amaro. I was raised a poor orc child. Senator Hammerslag, Mr. Michael Decker, because, he's cool like that.
Right.
Shanatsky, real popcorn geek, the Lady Anima Confusa, James Caserta, Tom Baker, Snorty, Gambit, 1987.
wait.
What?
Wait.
Oh, we have a game!
Yeah!
I came on to say hello to you guys because I know you're wrapping up. Also, my girlfriend, because she's my fiance, she's in the chat and I want her back.
She already left, man. She already left, man. If she ain't there now, that's on you, buddy.
Oh no, she's still there.
She said she had to go.
I told you.
I'm taking her to
Get
work.
home. Get home, baby. Make me some supper. Just
Oh!
You're gonna pay for that, I know.
Oh,
Sure you're gonna pay for
damn.
that.
It's Gary.
Yeah,
He doesn't. That's
She's
part of his
writing
branding.
that down. She's writing it.
It's part of his branding.
Right.
the brand. That's just my brand, man. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. You end your show. I'll see you guys.
Okay.
All right, take it easy, Gary.
Bye.
Later, Gary.
Bye.
3 buttons.
See? See? Yes.
Do you really want to leave? Do you really
He
really
will
want to
pay.
leave? Yes, he will pay.
It was at that point, Your Honor, that I realized something untoward might happen to my friend Gary, but I
Yeah.
didn't think
And that's
it would
when
just.
and that, Your Honor, is when the fight broke out. And then he threw up, and then she threw the punch. I don't know.
It's Ghost Wolfing, everybody.
Yes, he is.
Hey, John, miss you, buddy. Let's see.
All
Gambit, 1987. Oh, you know what? I'll have to hand that out to you once we close up the show, but I will get that to you, James. Let's see. Gambit, 1987, and that's it. Wow.
All right.
So, Martin,
Yeah.
the main man,
No.
the one true Ben, because, he's cool like that. For those two guys and myself, me being Keith, I'd like to thank you for joining us for this very special celebration episode of Morning Coffee with Keith. And I hope that you guys have, I hope you had some fun. It looked like a lot of fun was being had in the chat. If you can, like, share, subscribe, and or, just, you can always drop us a line, at least saying hi, or I disagreed with Ben, and here are my 27 reasons why. Or I think that Keith is an idiot, which, I get that a lot too. You can just do that, or at least, at the very least, just drop a line, just saying hi. You guys are kind of cool. We'd accept that too,
Right?
guys?
Well, I'm just, finding it kind of funny that we're clocking in at under 2 hours today.
Wow.
Martin's
Well-
going, yes,
Leave it to Star Trek to straighten us all out. You know what?
right?
Well, really,
You're
straighten
only
me.
going where no one has gone before.
That's what she said. Anyway,
Uh,
so on behalf of these incredible guys, I'm Keith. This has been Morning Coffee with Keith, and I hope you will join us next week. Until then, see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Matt Damon.